Hey everyone, sorry for the lack of light, but I'm driving on my way home from Patriot Group. We had an amazing guest speaker. He was speaking about the oligarchy and how our world is controlled by the oligarchy, the billionaires, etc. Anyway, I got into a really good conversation with him afterwards, and it was so interesting. I thought I needed to share it with more than just him. So I was expressing my views on the breakdown of society, and I know my views are not my own. Obviously, we all glean our thoughts from a variety of sources, so I'm sure a lot of people will agree and a lot of people will heartily disagree. But ever since the beginning of time, the enemy has, Satan, has been trying to get us at the family level. Cain killed Abel. Eve gave the forbidden fruit to Adam. And every time the enemy does this, he makes it look like we're reaching for something better. Like God will love us more. We'll have more wisdom. We'll have more freedom, right? There are a lot more examples, but breakdown of family is the breakdown of society. If you look back in the 50s, and in the time period when women were encouraged to get out of the home, get a job, and yet still take care of everything at home perfectly. It was freedom. A couple decades before that, women were able to vote. Yes, I do believe women should be able to vote. I'm not saying that, but the vote wasn't enough. The women wanted out of the household. They wanted to be seen as equal to men, even though, yes, we're equal to men, but we each have our different strengths and weaknesses, right? Clean the house with your pearls on. Use a microwave oven. Use TV dinners. But somehow, all these things that were meant to liberate women and free up our time, somehow, instead, led us to spend less time with each other as families. More divorces. More discontent in marriage, more discontent to raise the children, and to freely give our children to the public school system, which seemed okay at the time, but after the children started going to the public school system, then the public school system started to morph and change and gradually become this place where children are taught to hate our country, hate our parents, and hate our religion, hate our God. Actually, not hate our God, but just believe he doesn't exist. And so as the family breaks down, society breaks down. We have fatherless households. Where young men are growing up without a male figure. And now, for a while now, children have been taught that something as simple as their sex is fluid. Now, I don't believe the word gender should ever be in regards to a person. The word gender is referring to language and is a noun, male or female. If you look at the Spanish language, all the female nouns end in an A or similar. Obviously, there's exceptions. And the male nouns end in an O or something similar, right? So, gender is referring to language. Sex refers to if you're male or female. And that refers to your reproductive parts and how we procreate. So not only has society been broken down by breaking up the family, it has also convinced the children in the next generations that not only maybe they actually should be in a relationship in which they can never procreate naturally, so the population is going to go down, but also they are taught they cannot handle a child, or if they don't want a child right now, they have the right to murder that child before it's born by abortion. And also, they are taught that the world's gonna end because it's getting too warm here. Or there's climate change, so it's not safe to procreate and have children because we don't want children to grow up in a world like this. That's a breakdown of society. You create a system in which we have a few big generations like the baby boomers and even the millennials. There's even more of us, right? So there's so many of us that any generations coming after us, you can forget about Social Security. There won't be anyone to take care of us because there will be so many of us and very few children, unless we turn things around and bring back true family Christian values to the United States. People will say, what about freedom of religion? Yes, freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. That means that the state does not dictate to us how to practice our religion and who to worship and how to worship. Which means they cannot tell me to stop going to church because I should be afraid of a virus when my God heals. And they can't tell me that I need to get a shot that has aborted fetal tissue in it because I don't believe in murdering of babies, or eat food in which they use aborted fetal tissue to create the flavorings and for the food. And then it's creating a society ready to collapse. And it's not that recent. Like I said, it goes all the way back to Genesis. But even before the mid-1900s, if you look in England, when it was looked down upon to have a trade, to have a job, you're supposed to be a man or woman of leisure. You're supposed to be a lady or a lord in order to function in society. You're supposed to be seen as this person who is above work. So these men, having no purpose, feeling like they're not actually providing for their family, and many of them living in failed estates where they've been spending their money without any regards to a budget, and so they are land rich and money poor, and they have to keep up a facade, getting into debt. And then these men feel worthless. I mean, think of Charles Dickens' books. How many men end up killing themselves because they ruined their family monetarily? Or they're considered, I can't remember what the word is. I want to say fop, but that's not the right word. But they're considered a useless man because they don't know anything. They don't know how to run a household. They weren't properly educated because they had nannies come in and teach them, and governesses and tutors come in and teach them. But a lot of times it had to be easy work. They didn't want their children to be overburdened. So the children grew up not knowing how to run the household properly, not knowing how to run the finances properly, and so the men are emasculated, and sometimes they go fake hunting and go shoot some birds or whatever. But especially if you look in Queen Victoria times, or when the Queen in England was the one in charge and not a king, the women rose up and took and wore the proverbial pants in the household, and the men were emasculated. And then you get further breakdown of households. Not to mention the fact that most of the people were marrying for money and connections. They were not marrying because they knew the person or they loved the person. They were marrying them because they wanted to lift themselves up in society. Not because they wanted someone that could actually like run a household or anything. So there's that as well. So the breakdown of the household. So that's what I am saying, I am calling for, and I am believing that people in the church, as we wake up, we rise up, and we start having families where we are the ones that reinstitute healthy marriages, healthy parenting, taking back responsibility for our children's education. Even if you send them to a public school, you make sure you're aware what your child is being taught, and you tell them the truth when they're being taught false things. And you tell the teachers and the school board and everything, this is how I want my child taught. I don't want critical race theory. I don't want my child to be taught that they have to apologize for the fact that they were born with a certain skin color. I don't want my children to have to be raised by a school system that doesn't even believe in the God I believe in. I don't want my children to be taught in their school that they can choose what sex they are, or what type of relationships are healthy, or whether to get vaccines or not, or whether to use birth control this way or that way, or have abortions. The school, that's not their responsibility. So we start in our families and in our churches, relearning what healthy femininity and healthy masculinity is according to the Bible, and realize that male and female are both good and are equal, but we're meant to uphold each other, and we're meant to support each other, and we are meant to complement, with an E, complement each other. Eve was a rib of Adam. We're meant to fit together seamlessly. And we start doing that, learning what healthy relationship means, learning what healthy parenting and healthy emotional processing means within the family. And then we all step out into the world. Well, even now we need to be stepping out into the world, even before we get that stuff figured out. But because a lot of us have it together better than we think we do. And we're ready to spread that to the world because we're empowered by Jesus and by the Holy Spirit. We are not doing this on our own. And we step out into the world and we do things like we run for the central committee in our county, or if we feel led to, in the state, or we run for the school board or the township trustee. And we refuse to be bought out by interest groups, people offering us money, people threatening this or that or the other. And we run using the godly principles we know are right. And that is the place of the church and government. The body of Christ stepping up to be in government, to be the government for the people, by the people. Not the people that are being hired in by our votes because we feel like we don't have a choice, and then all they do is sit there and make money and launder money and pretend to be Democrats, pretend to be Republicans, when they're all really sitting in there with the same agenda to break down our society, make money, and some of them, yes, bring us into a one world government, into totalitarianism. And they will gladly sell us out for money when they have shares in Pfizer, Moderna, you name it. They have shares in these companies, conflict of interest. It's time to stop complaining and start acting, not reacting, being proactive, thinking long term. Yes, our elections stink and we need better ways of voting besides the machines that are cheating. That's why you can go in and vote on the day that you're supposed to vote, not early voting, not mail-in voting. And if you can avoid it, not absentee ballots, go in and ask for a paper ballot, and when they want you to sign in their little iPad, say, no, I'd like to sign in a book, please. That is how we take back our country. And no, government is not our salvation. But we as God's people, we're to reign until Christ returns. And that means spiritually and physically. And when we stand up and we live righteously in the public eye, people will want to know who our God is. Think of all the times in the Bible when Daniel or somebody went in and spoke to the king and worked for the king and served the king. And the king wanted to know, who is this God that you serve? Or Nebuchadnezzar says, oh, everyone must pay homage to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because I tried to burn them up, and guess what? They didn't burn. We are literally indestructible. My garage door is going down. We are literally indestructible because we're spirit. We're not just body. We're spirit, soul, and body. So we live righteously here and now, bringing as many people into the kingdom with us. And in the meantime, yes, we use our material possessions properly. We take care of our bodies, the temple of God, properly because He lives in us. So for everybody who says that government and religion or being a Christian are completely unconnected, I'm going to say, how dare you say that my God is too small to rule the world? How dare you say that my God is too small to use me? How dare you say that my God is too small to fix our country? There will come a day when our country or any country in the world won't be fixed because it will be the return of Christ and the tribulation and everything. And yeah, when Jesus comes back, that's great. But don't we want to take as many people with us as possible? Don't we want to be a good influence on this earth? Aren't you tired of living your small little life just trying to get by, just trying to make sure you save enough for retirement? It's time to say, who cares about retirement funds? To be honest, yes, it's good to save and be wise. But if you're not storing up treasures in heaven by being a good steward of the influence you have in this world, what good is any of that stuff? Anyway, that was a lot more than what we talked about, but obviously somebody somewhere is going to hear something that's going to encourage them and help them. And I just pray that every one of you who has felt like they have a greater purpose in this earth than they have been living, stop and ask the Lord, do you want me to run for a public office? Because right now, I'm looking for someone that lives in my city who's willing to run in 2023 and boot out the current Democrat that's in there and actually run as a God-fearing patriot. I'm not saying that Democrats can't be God-fearing patriots. but I know a lot fewer Democrats that are God-fearing patriots than Republicans. And there is crap and deception and corruption on both sides of the aisle, yes. But we have a two-party system, and the people that are vying for change, the people that have the most awake people are the Republicans. So if you want to run as a God-fearing patriot, for now it's going to be easier to run as a Republican. And when you start looking into the history of the Democratic Party and what the truth is about the Democrat Party and many of the people that are in office right now that are Democrats, I invite you to talk to me about it, because I think you'll change your mind. So, anyway, there's my spiel for the night. I have a feeling I'll be having a lot more of this coming. I don't know. We'll see. So, anyway, have a good night, everyone.